Hey everybody. So I have a perspective on this that's potentially going to piss everybody off, which is how I know I'm right. But anyway, so there has been this new thing that has caused some controversy on the internet, which is this question, this hypothetical that's being posed to women, which is if you were lost in the woods, would you want to encounter a random man you don't know or a bear? And overwhelmingly, with some exception, but overwhelmingly, women are choosing the bear. And so now hashtag we choose the bear is trending and all of this. And so I was curious to take like an actual test sample on this. Now I have my own opinions about this, my own thoughts and assumptions. But I talked to 10 different women, actually 9 women, because the 10th was the 5-year-old daughter of one of the women I was standing there talking to, who drew this lovely portrait of me. This is a drawing of me running away from a tornado, apparently, and I think it's a pretty good likeness. It looks like, honestly, it looks like an early Basquiat, to be honest with you. And if you don't get the joke I'm making there, go look up Jean-Michel Basquiat. Like, seriously, he is the apex of my kid could draw that modern art, abstract art. And yes, I've seen the documentary, My Kid Could Paint That. I thought it was great. But, I mean, seriously, like, you see his stuff and you wonder if he was holding the pen like this. I mean, anyway. But now that I'm done ragging on modern art, the thing that we came back to, so I asked 9 actual women. The little girl, the 5-year-old girl that drew this picture, she also picked the bear, but I think she was imagining a bear with porridge, you know. Anyway, so the others, 2 of them said the man. A third one was on the fence but leaning towards the bear, and the rest said the bear. The ages ranged from 14 to late 70s. And that I talked to, these were all women that I knew in to varying degrees, at least well enough that I could ask the question. And so, all right. To be clear, I did not ask any of the type of, purple-haired, irritable bowel syndrome havers that tend to show up and complain every time one of these type of questions is posed. I asked just average, everyday, salt of the earth women. And so, first and foremost, before I get into that, I'll give you my perspective, which was, I heard the question, I thought, well, first of all, as many people have pointed out, I mean, the bear, if the bear gets after you, if the man gets after you in some way, there are options. Like, there's a chance you could fight him off. There's a chance you could run away from him successfully. There's a chance you could talk him out of it, outsmart him, talk him out of it, that kind of thing. Whereas if the bear gets after you, that's it. Really, I mean, I would say climb a tree, but the bear's going to be able to pull the tree down or come up the tree most likely. But it's like, a 600-pound, 9-foot-tall brown bear that can run 35 miles an hour. Yeah, if that thing wants you dead, you're dead. I mean, you're done. I thought it was interesting that the older women, the 2 that said the man were older women. The one that was on the fence about it was in her early 30s, and the rest were younger than that. And so teenage, the youngest was 14 through late 20s for the rest of them. The remaining, I can't math, 10 minus 4 is 6. The remaining 6. And so, and they all said the bear. And so I was interested to see what would come of this. And again, obviously the bear is a greater existential threat. The other perspective that I had on it was that gambling on the man brings with it positive additions to, with the bear, the best you can hope for with the bear is it leaves you alone. With the man, there's a chance that he has food and water and first aid supplies, or a map, or knows how to get out of the woods, or can has shelter available, or can get us to other people, or an encampment of other people. Like there's possible benefits in addition to just not being harmed. There's possible benefits. So that was my thinking on it. And the all the women who said the bear, I asked why, and independently of each other, they all gave me the same answer, which was that, and this, by the way, Georgia, I'm in Georgia, which is a very wilderness, outdoors kind of state, and I used to live in Atlanta proper. I now live about an hour north of Atlanta, way out in the boonies, and I'm a city rat. I've been a city guy, or big city type of person my whole life. I never thought I would enjoy being out in the middle of nowhere as much as I am now. It's so pleasant. But anyway, so it's a wilderness type of area anyway. But they said something that I hadn't thought about, which was, no, okay, first of all, none of them thought that the bear was safe, fundamentally safe, and the man was fundamentally dangerous. They knew that both options have danger associated with them, and none of them thought that the bear was less dangerous. They all know that the bear is a more dangerous physical threat. So what they all expressed to me independently of each other was, with the bear, there are steps you can take to make the bear leave you alone. You can scare a bear. If you handle yourself the right way, you can spook the bear and make it run away. So there are survival steps you can take to automatically ameliorate the threat of the bear, to make it run away. And then also they said, like, if you could more easily, if you had a gun, someone said if you more easily, if you had a gun, kill the bear, than you could legally kill a man, and that kind of thing. And so there were all of the questions like that, and again, you don't have to bring. I know it's illegal in some sense, in some areas, to shoot bears and that kind of thing, but you're talking about a fine versus going to jail for manslaughter if they found against you. But anyway, so there was that. But then they pointed that out, and then also that you don't have that option with the man. There's not like something you can do to spook the man and make him go away. If the man, there's not a protocol you can follow to make the man go away. If the man wants to keep following you or bothering you, he will. And they said, he could not only could he physically overpower you, but if he's got a plan for you, he wants to hurt you, he wants to rape you or something like that, or he just wants to bother you for the rest of the afternoon. He's got a plan. He's probably got a plan where he's thinking 3 steps ahead of what you're doing. He's anticipating your next move and thinking about that. Where the bear is going off of primal instinct, the man is actively plotting against you. And so I hadn't thought about it that way, and I thought that was very interesting. Now, I am hardly the most politically correct person on the planet, so this is not me trying to defend some pre-existing liberal agenda or something like that. This is me arriving at this having thought about perspectives that I didn't have before. And I like that. I get that. None of the women that I talked to, none of them are man-hating shrews. I don't associate with that kind of people anyway. But none of them had like a fundamental distrust of men or a fundamental hatred of men. It's being in that dangerous situation, how they would respond to that situation differently. And all of them pointed out that the random man you don't know is a big part of it. Obviously, if it's a man you know and trust, that's not a problem. And then obviously, if it's a man that's very clearly safe, if it's the park ranger that's going to show up and guide you back to your car and that kind of thing, or get you out, get you to safety, obviously they're going to pick the park ranger over the bear, that kind of thing. So it was not a thing at all of bear fundamentally safe, man fundamentally dangerous, or something like that. Not the kind of opinion we expect the purple-haired IBS havers to have about this. I saw today in the metal press where they said that Ronnie Radke had angered the trans community by saying that, well, of course we don't, of course we understand that men are pose a physical threat to women. That's why we don't let them change in women's bathrooms and locker rooms and everything. And I heard that and I thought, Mitzi's sitting in front of the light. That's why it just got darker. But anyway, I heard that and I thought, wow. I mean, fuck my butt with a walnut truck. You mean Ronnie Radke voiced an opinion that pissed people off? You do realize it's more newsworthy if Ronnie Radke has an opinion that doesn't piss people off, right? Anyway, but moving on to my thoughts, I thought about this, and my thoughts on this, acknowledging, of course, the understandable and undeniable threat that does exist. My thoughts about it were a little bit more abstract and philosophical, which is, you know, every civilization works on, one of the fundamental facets of civilization is the capacity, the development of an implied social contract by which people can trust each other well enough to live together. That we can move into a neighborhood trusting that our neighbors are safe people, that they're not going to harm us in some way. We don't, what I mean is, like, we don't have to move into a neighborhood and go around and meet everybody to make sure everybody's okay. We can, I've lived in plenty of different neighborhoods and apartment complexes, and I've never really introduced myself to anyone except maybe my immediate next door neighbor and that kind of thing. And, we can do that because we assume we have kind of like a common trust with everybody of a social contract we're all going to observe. And that is born out, part of that, one of the facets of that is an understanding that the men of a community have been properly educated in a certain way on a common consensus about how to interact with women. Now, I want to be very clear. I'm not saying I'm not making the teach men not to rape argument. I'm not saying that at all. There's no amount of education or proper upbringing that's going to stop a malicious sociopath from doing what he's, from doing what he's going to do. That's what mace and handguns that fit in your purse are for. But anyway, there is, in general, though, one facet of that is that men understand how they ought to interact around women. And to the purple-haired IBS havers that, that have this very, very grim view of Western culture and men in general and that sort of thing, I want you to stop and think about something. In the Middle Ages, when so much of what we now know as Western civilization was coming together, the ideas and concepts were coming together and everything, we'd had the Roman Empire, the Greeks and the Roman Empire, which fell into then the Dark Ages, and out of that was the Middle Ages. Think about the knights, what we think of as the Knights of the Round Table and everything, that sort of thing, the knightly virtues and the knightly social mores and social norms and that sort of thing. Where all of that came from was that the knights, the original knights were basically just common thugs, working gangs of thugs that were working on behalf of whoever could pay them the most. And they they began to realize the leadership of the world of Europe at the time and everything, not just the world, but Europe specifically. They started to realize in general that this was not sustainable. These men needed something more than just being on the take being on the take to really guide them and bind them to their work. Because obviously at that point, you've just got people who are going to do whatever the wealthiest benefactor or tells them to do. And so, to deal with these men who were murderous, raping thugs, that kind of thing, that would do, that would rape women and things like that. They started introducing the Knights Code, the Knights Code, the knightly virtues, and they made it something. They brought in all of the codes of chivalry and nobility and all of that. And that really speaks to a lot of people. And that's something that's very much that attitude, that idea of like, this is a virtue that you are aspiring to. This is something to be this thing means to rise to a greater realization, a more regal, a more noble realization of yourself. That really speaks to people. And that's fundamentally what's at the heart of Christianity, the idea of like getting in touch with the fact that yes, you are a fallen human being. You are you are you are fundamentally immoral and have to be made better. And I know a lot of secular or atheist people write in and say, yeah, well, I don't believe in God, and I don't go around murdering and raping people, blah, 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 blah. And I don't steal from people. I don't hurt people. I don't take advantage of all of that. And to them, I would say, probably the main reason you don't do that is because you are very seldom confronted with a situation that a situation that causes you to really confront the morality, the moral code that you operate off of on a base level, not what you know to be morally sound ideas on a philosophical level, but what you operate off of on a base level. That when you're in a pinch, when you're in a bind, this is gonna be the end result action of your fight or flight response. This is the action you will take because it's automatic in you. You very seldom are going to be confronted with something like that. Think about that when if you ever are in a situation like No Country for Old Men, where you find a guy that's been gunned down and he's got a briefcase full of money or something like that. You're in a seriously morally compromising situation like that. Then you can say, then we can start to talk about what your moral code is. But anyway, that process of getting people to confront that, I am a fallen person, I must rise, I must aspire to something better, I must raise the cast of my personal character, if you will. That was a great civilizing factor in so much of Europe during the Middle Ages, that moved us forward very nicely into the Enlightenment values that eventually led to the United States, where we struck down slavery, and and so on and so forth. The forward push of Western civilization has been built on this thing of telling men, hey, you're broken on the inside, you're broken on the inside, but there are greater heights you can aspire to. And that the way you deal with that brokenness is you aspire higher and higher and higher with that. And you give them that story and that narrative to aspire to. Yes, codes of chivalry. You teach them that being respectful towards women resonates on a greater level, says more about who they are, that they're better people for rising above the hoi polloi, the general hoi polloi that will just, say unkind, indecent things about women to a woman and that sort of thing. You teach them to aspire to something greater. That has been transformative to an extraordinary degree, to such a degree, we probably would have died out a very long time ago as a species if we had not realized that not just men, but women in general, that people respond to that and they are raised and lifted up by that. We would probably have died out by now if we hadn't figured that out. And I think the way we figured it out was, personally, as a Christian, I do think there was some supernatural intervention involved. But Thank God we did figure it out. And so I bring all of this up because the people, the purple-haired IBS havers, are generally the people who want to throw out Western civilization. They see it as being only a bad thing rather than something that's been consistently improving since the Dark Ages. But they see it as being something that's inherently bad, that can only be bad, and they want to throw it out altogether. And these are the people who are now up in arms about men with misogynistic opinions of women, men with hateful, bigoted opinions towards women, that sort of thing. And the thing is, they seem to have forgotten that they're the ones that demanded that we throw out the moral code that told men to regard women as sacred. Stop and think about what it says in the Bible. Men, love your wives as Christ loved the assembly. What did he do for the assembly? He died for it. That is significant. You want to throw all of that out. You want to throw out men who hold that as their highest regard, and hold women in this high regard, this noble regard, and everything. You want to throw that out, and then just demand that the men behave in a certain way without the personal resonance, that personally resonant philosophy that makes it feel worthwhile to them. The man, I think it is a good thing to treat women with dignity and respect, whether they want to have sex with you or not, whether they want to, whether they like you or not. There is this dignity that you afford women, and I take pride in that. It makes me feel good to participate in that and to be a part of that. And these are the people, they want to throw all of that out, throw out all of those values, and just demand that people give them the same courtesy and respect apropos of nothing other than the fact that, this attitude of, you owe this to me because you're a piece of shit. Not I respect you for being a good, noble, decent man who has aspired to something worthwhile in his character. Rather, we're going to throw all of that out. That could have only ever been bad. And so we're just going to throw all of that out and replace it with, no, you're going to treat me right because you're a piece of shit. And you're going to feel shitty about what a piece of shit you are while you're a piece of shit, because feeling good about it is evil. You shouldn't feel good about it. You should feel shitty about how shitty you are while you give me the respect and adulation you deserve. And we wonder where this loathsome divide between men and women is coming from, that kind of thing. And that's what keeps resonating with me in all of this, is I totally understand the practical observations that women were making with regards to this to me, the last couple days as I've been talking about this. All of that makes sense. And I get that. I'm 100% behind that. I totally get that. Yes, it's easier to get the bear to go away. But to the militant, purple-haired IBS havers that are, looking for this as an excuse to scream and complain at men, you need to stop and remember that the fundamental thing you're wanting to throw away, which is Western civilization. And don't get me wrong, there are civilizations all across the globe outside of Western civilization that have similar codes of honor and that sort of thing built into how they treat women and things like that. There are plenty of others that have horrible standards about that. But that thing you want to throw away, Western culture, as for better or for worse, and it's far from perfect, but it had in it that nobility that men could aspire to, that they could feel good about themselves for aspiring to. And you want to throw all that out and replace it with, just replace it with you straighten up and act right around me because you're a piece of shit and you're always a piece of shit, but you just stay over there and be a piece of shit and feel shitty about being a piece of shit. That's the difference. And that's what occurs to me. And then I know this is a wide derivation from that question in general, but that's what occurs to me if we're trying to make some meta-analysis of the sociological implications of this. Because the thing that you, the thing that for centuries and centuries was giving you the best possible hope for a positive outcome, in setting the bear aside, in a situation where you encounter a random man in the woods, the thing that was giving you the best hope for a positive outcome was that sense of nobility and chivalry within men, that they would do the right thing and treat you well and have been raised correctly to do the right thing. That's the closest thing to teach men not to rape that you could ever hope to have. And you want to throw that out. And so that's what's amazing to me, because, Bill Maher says, and of all of the people, I know I talk about different talking heads, Bill Maher is probably the person of all of the political pundits that I agree with the most. And even him, it's only about, 95% of the time. But anyway, I agree with him a lot. And, he talks about how he's like, people are like, Bill, you're becoming conservative. And I'm like, my position hasn't changed. The window of what constitutes liberal has shifted so far. My position didn't change. And that's the thing too. For me, my position has not changed. I'm sure when I talk about preserving Western civilization like that and everything, you're probably immediately wanting to kick me into the Julius Evola camp and that sort of thing. But no, that's just everything I expressed 10 plus years ago, maybe 15 years ago, would have been just a garden variety, moderate liberal position. And the reason for that is because we saw liberalism as something that was building on the established good, that was expanding on something positive. And that's not what it is anymore. Now it's, to be a good leftist, you have to want to throw out, you have to throw out America and want Uganda to take over, want to turn this into Uganda and pretend that will be better or something like that. You want to throw out the Western culture upon which America is built and replace it with sociological models that have only ever produced the worst outcomes for humanity in the entire history of humanity. And I mean, this is just another example of that. Your best bet for encountering a man that is not going to hurt you in the woods, acknowledging, of course, that there is an existential threat either way, but your best bet, and then there will always be a potential for harm, you can get that potential for harm down very, very small if you champion that nobility, that sense of honor and pride and nobility within men. If you champion that, you can be more hopeful as you possibly can be, that random man in the woods is not up to no good. And so that was just my observation about that. But again, that is only my observation for the purple-haired IBS havers, the normal women who are just giving reasonable responses about, it's easier to get rid of the bear. I understand that. That makes total sense to me. So anyway, like I said, I feel like I've touched every possible base and said something that will piss off every single person that sees this video, regardless of demographic. I didn't intend for it to be that way. It's just as I go through my thoughts in my head and I don't find one thought that's not going to piss somebody off, I think, well, this probably means I've hit on the right answer. So anyway,